Hello guys, welcome to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. I'm Aspie. For those of you who don't know me, welcome to the newbies that are on today, and hopefully that in saying this you'll enjoy some of the videos I'm about to bring out for the autism related topics for this week of the month of Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. So if you're into any of these or any other videos that I'm hoping to do as of now and in the future, feel free to smash the subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. And while you do so, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the future videos that are featuring, be it autism related or not. So as you're aware, as I said, I'm going to try and bring out some from my blogs of my afterthoughts of what I've been sharing that's close to my heart, as well as insaneness of what I've been up to through listening into the well, not listening as such, but just participating in the way of communicating with the autistics in the autistic community. Because as you're aware, basically some of the topics hasn't been clearly been shared much because obviously, I don't know, it could be a fear of judgment, fear of maybe what is going to be thrown back isn't a call of just being like as if we're know-alls or whatever it may be. But hopefully in saying this we can just respect one another regardless of this is. So as you were basically, if you've not been following me on my WordPress, which will link in the description below of my sites, that this is coming from there of my site, and in saying this basically hopefully some of you who may have seen it are enjoying some of the reads. Some of these are, like I said, are going to be based on this, so that you can have the option of either reading from the actual write-up of what I'm writing, or if you feel like something visual, because each to their own hearsay. So this was basically today going to be about the need for more autistic advocates in the autistic community. So let's begin this. The question we need to ask ourselves is, why do we need more autistic advocates, or just advocates in general? I have come to realise based on this that there is more to the point of here in New Zealand, as well as probably, well I am probably wrong, but don't quote me on this, because this is from what I've seen and experienced and heard, that there's not many advocates here in New Zealand. So therefore obviously, you know, whatever way we look at it, there has to be some form of advocate to meet the needs of everybody who's either through the mental health system, the autistic community, and any other kind of advocacy that will work for others that just needs it in general. It can be, you know, on a whole spectrum of different ways about it. I believe also in saying this, we as a whole need to change people's perspectives and ideas of what autistic people really are, how they do things in their everyday life, and so on and so forth, so that they can really make them angry or misunderstood, or misunderstand us as a whole, I should say, correction. And then saying this also though, that basically I feel that it's our role as an autistic, if we believe that we're strong enough to be an advocate regardless in the community outside the full screen, like I've been doing through YouTube or wherever it may be, so that hopefully, you know, we can gain more, you know, trust and understanding through others. But as we know, every day is a struggle for many autistics, as well as for our fellow peers that are going through something that of their everyday mental health problems, or just something that they need to try and fight the fight. So therefore, we, as I said before, we are lacking in some parts of the world people who can advocate for others that are in dire need. It's a shame really when you look at this as something needs to be done, yet sometimes there are reasons to why people doesn't want to help each other nowadays, which is a sad fact of the reality around the world, or just most people are for themselves and not others. It's coming to that stage now I've realised, in my own opinion, that I could be wrong, but this is just based from what I've seen and heard and actually experienced, that many people are just out there for themselves, you know, me such generation, and that, you know, if you're a caring person, empathetic person, you know, or as what some people will call it, if you want to put it in as an example, a dating scene, that the nice guy is the last person to know about. So what I'm saying is also though is that it's kind of a sad fact, because I just tend to see it as that, you know, for us, we should be able to care for one another. We shouldn't be fighting against one another, what have you, I believe. But then again, we are each to their own about, you know, differences of opinion and whatever else. But then just recently, I have read and heard about a certain type of hype of a movie that is called Please Stand By, which obviously I haven't seen the actual movie itself, but from what I can gather of the storyline, if I can, I'll try not to give too much of a spoiler, but hey, I'll just say this, that it's about an autistic young woman living in California, which is good to see actually an actress that is actually acting as an autistic woman this time, because obviously, as I said before, one of the misconceptions has been said so many times before in the past that, you know, autism is only for guys, or autism has been only diagnosed in boys, you know, and in saying this, that many of us females are usually diagnosed later due to underlying conditions and stuff, which I have talked about this, which I'll link in the iBar in the description, about autism and girls on the women and girls on the spectrum, so that you can understand to where I'm coming from. But anyway, I have heard some good things about this movie, however, but it has got me thinking about why advocacy is so necessary for autistics, especially, as well as just, you know, as a whole. Especially this one, attitudes towards this autistic woman were very much that she had no capability to live independently and little to add to the world. But as the film unfolds, it becomes so clear that the young woman is highly talented and resourceful. I was impressed to hear about basically a woman is portraying autism, of what her everyday life is like as an autistic, because as I said, that many times some movies come to the point that they overdo it on actually showing what life is like for an autistic, be it like, especially for some of the classic ones we see about, you know, one that's common is The Good Doctor versus basically, well, The Good Doctor is a good one to explain it thorough, but there's other ones out there that can just tend to send the wrong message about what us autistics are really like. I'm not going to name the actual movies that I've seen, but some of them might agree basically that it's just a bit iffy. I don't know, but anyway, don't get me wrong though, I'm not trying to be sexist or biased when I'm trying to share this. As I said, this is just my main opinion here, so please don't bash me about it, just respect my opinions, hearsay we could say. So there is a need to be shown of more female roles that can act as autistic, or has autistics that are females, you know, so that there is a long way to go for doing so, however, which is sad, but hopefully in the near future we'll see more female actresses who are autistics that may be able to, you know, clarify or show what life is like for us females. As we know that, as I said before, many roles has been portraying autism as for the male side of things. I'm not sure of the disability politics of the filmmaker, but I'll hope to watch the movie trailer or something along these lines to share my thoughts and reactions to the movie, which will be to be affirmed if I will do so in this month of autumn, Awareness Acceptance Month. If you want me to do so, let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully we can go about basically doing so. One person has mentioned, however, though, it had applied behaviour analysis, which were very hard for them to watch. Yet, again, this will be another varying of opinions on this topic alone, which I'll hope to talk or write about later, either during the month of autism awareness week, or just as in general, basically, to share my thoughts, because it's just a bit of match about this. Obviously, I thought to myself as I heard this, I was going to actually want to do a vlog or blog about this, you know, type video topic that I'm talking about, you know, the need for advocacy. But obviously, this blog post or vlog post alone is a bit broader than the film in itself of what I'm sharing with you today. Don't get me wrong, I am no movie reviewer, no, I'm far from it. As you know, I am your normal, everyday autistic mental health creator or advocate, educator, to share my thoughts and experiences about what my life is like with autism based on my important topics that I believe is important to me, sharing you guys my life stories and journey while you're journeying with me, as well as insaneness about these topics that may not have been shared before, you know, or may have but thought to share as my very own insights as well, just to get on the bandwagon so that we can keep the conversation going and whatnot. You can take it or leave it though, however, based on, you know, my afterthoughts of these everyday topics that I feel is important to me. You know, it's, again, as I said in one of the videos, but accepting what I share in a way of it, you know, as well as just being respectful. Yeah, this is how I see and feel the world differently to others, as I'm sure that many of my other fellow autistics, buddies, or people in the community may agree with me somehow. The thing that struck a chord with me, or struck me the most about the film after someone shared this briefly with me, trying not to, as I said, give away too much about the film, is all about from the start to finish, that is demonstrated quite well about why advocacy is important. So the film showed this through highlighting that many people view autistic people as incompetent and perennial children. There are therapies for autistic kids which essentially mirror training a dog. This needs to stop. Why doesn't it need to stop? Because, for heaven's sake, we are still humans. We are like you, even if we are wired differently, even if we see the world differently, even if we speak different native language to you guys. I'm sure as hell you can find a way to accept us, you know? Because obviously, at the end of the day, it depicts us about us autistic that we're almost like nothing to others, that we're just nothing to the point of no return. That in some ways, and what I'm saying here is just that, you know, you guys label us as something else. We're too broken, we're too hard to fix, all these, you know, possibility labels that is too hard for us to carry and bear on our backs, if you know what I mean. And I've shared a poem, like I said in my last video, about labels and just labels in general, how it can actually affect us, and I'll link that in the iCard in the description below so that you can get to know about it. But as I said before, I believe this is demeaning when you put these labels on us, to who and what we are as autistics, and to some of the autistics, and what we need to do together at the forefront. We need to stand up into what we believe in, and hopefully in saying this we'll be brave enough and not just take a step back and just say, no, we're gonna just let the world deal with us and whatever else. Autistic people often have so much to offer in the world, but this is not always noticed and understood by many. And in saying this, that, as I said before, that some people do tend to look at us, or shall we say, not us, but at our weaknesses more than our strengths, which I'm hoping to share my afterthoughts about, you know, why people tend to look at our weaknesses more than our strengths, that we should be looking at the strengths of autistics, because, you know, you'll be amazed what we can do. And the reasoning for this is basically also, despite the offerings of the world of what we can give to you, is that it has been, you know, not noticed or understood by many of us, is due to some of the lack of knowledge and understanding of what's behind, you know, what autism is. And as I said, autism is still new, of the new diagnosis for people, especially like now, like as I said before in one of my videos, that Asperger's syndrome, that's the main one I've got, is now in that cluster of the actual autism spectrum disorder that they've just recently put out on the DSM-5 manual, which again, I'll link that one also into the video somewhere in the description below. But I can't stress it enough. I've said it so many times, and I'm sure as hell you're getting sick of me saying it. Not all autistics that you meet are the same. You know, they will be different in their own unique way, be it of their characteristics, traits, and just the characteristics in general. But there is still a view that autism, obviously, for autistic people, having no feelings at all, or empathy. Let me tell you, no way, Jose, this is far from the truth, that it's not true. There are some autistics that are on the spectrum that might have more empathy than others, and you'll be downright amazed. You know, as you know, basically many autistic feel deeper than others. I'm one of them, and many people might look at me crazy. I have shared about this on one of my videos about being a highly sensitive person, because that comes into the territory of being an autistic, which hopefully I'll either link that video or one of these playlistings to gain a better understanding of me as an autistic in general, as well of my experiences, so on and so forth. So please bear with me. But then this viewpoint about us with no empathy towards others also needs to stop. So please bear in mind of that, you know. In terms of the real world, however, I've been advocating and educating others on YouTube, as well as hopefully not just on YouTube but on other platforms that you may see me on, since 2013-14-ish. Things have certainly changed since then, however. Boy, has it ever. To me, I'll be honest with you, it's really daunting and disgusting after hearing to what other fellow autistics go through on the daily, and they don't get heard. This goes back to my other video about basically, you know, what I feel, how I feel about myself as an autistic, or the worries or concerns about autistic, which I'll link in the iCard as well as in the description below, so that you can follow through this. But in saying this though, when they don't get heard on the daily, or if they do try to speak out, they tend to feel that they're getting slammed down or shut down by their peers, or just some of the neurotypicals that they think they're above everybody else. But there are still things which really needs our attention. I myself, and professionally other autistic speakers, if there's any out there that are watching this, used to only be viewed as a token or the colour and light. When I have now decided to have the courage to speak about my story, you know, and experiences with autism, hopefully with that courage to speak with the help of the social media platform of YouTube, Facebook, as well as not just, you know, YouTube, Facebook, but also inside this, just in the form of networking with others, autistics. But now there is a growing knowledge that autistic people are the experts in autistic experience. I know, hey, who would have thought? But then again, with that knowledge comes with experience, is the quota, right? So what we go through in our everyday life is our everyday life lessons. I've learned this day in, day out, you know. I'm thankful that I'm alive regardless of all these life experiences that I've been through in the past and present. So I'm still facing certain things here right now. But in saying this, I know for a fact everything happens for a reason. And those things that happen for a reason obviously is important to me, because without these life lessons doesn't come with great knowledge and experience with it. But there are autistic-led organisations around the world, like here's the example wise in Aussie, there's one called the Yellow Ladybugs and the I Can Network, which are doing great work in empowering autistic young people, along with maybe a few more that I can't think of at the top of the head, especially in New Zealand, because obviously, as I said before in one of my videos, it's a sad reality that there's not many organisations in New Zealand or support groups in New Zealand at the moment, which I believe we should hopefully, in saying this, create more, hopefully in the near future. Autistic viewpoints, however, often feature in the news media and not as, you know, only as human interest. I see these developments at the moment good things, however there are many areas that still requires significant work. These will include the following main points. Employment representative in the employment numbers in Australia, even though I'm not in Australia, bear with me with the statistics if I'm reading any. They are almost 6 times more likely to be employed than the general population. However, on the other hand, where I am in New Zealand, there's less than 10% of New Zealanders who have been diagnosed with autism are actually in full-time employment at this moment of time. But there has, however, a new program that hopes to change that. Catherine Trezona, the one who is the founder of Altogether Autism in Auckland, however, stated that she estimates there could be about 80,000 New Zealanders on the autism spectrum alone who are or who were looking for work. The figures were in line with the international research, which were about 2% of the population had autism diagnosis, but only about 20% of those people were in full-time employment. Yet there is hope for us. New Zealand autistics, however, there's something that may assist us. I will discuss it more and write more hopefully to what I said more later about this sort of thing, of this topic about employment in New Zealand for autistics, of what I've found on my research findings. But let's just get back to this at hand before I, trail off out of nowhere. The reasoning behind this is not usually because we are unskilled or unemployable, but due to a range of factors, some structural and others related to the attitudes of individual employers, however, about us autistics, and there also being a load of unwritten rules at work that we don't tend to understand or notice ourselves. Some of us autistics, maybe not. That will for means our skills and talents may be overlooked, and employment can be difficult or impossible when in fact this does not need to be the case for us autistics. Number two, as we know, we have far lower education and attainment levels than the general population. The children alone, basically, of autistics often leave school due to bullying or any other issues and simply never will go back due to a lot of reasons, such as a fear of rejection, fear of getting bullied again, and so much more. Higher education can also be a fraught place for us autistics, be it, in a university or polytech or whatever we are seeing ourselves as, seem fit. While schools seem to be getting a bit better at inclusion in some parts, there's still a long way to go in addressing these issues. Some autism organisations have what I term legacy thinking, meaning that once they had a good message, but now they have outlived their usefulness. These are often the organisations who have no autistic representatives on their board or who promote awareness events which are exclusionary, such as the Light It Up Blue campaign. Yeah, assessing healthcare is a real utter nightmare for me, our autistic people and families. Health settings such as hospitals can be terrifying and exclusionary, and medical professionals can be ignorant or even arrogant to the point about autism and do more harm than good. I've heard about so many stories from other autistics in the autistic community, how they are treated when they are in hospitals, etc. And I feel really bad about it in some ways, because the reason being in saying what I've heard, especially in some parts of the world that I thought would not have deemed to do this, but so fact but reality, while this change is going on, is basically some people say we should be thankful in New Zealand of what's going down for us, but have we got any autistics out there that are from New Zealand besides myself that has had some rough experiences in the health system, of how we're treated? It's not just that, but I've heard stories on the grapevine about some people I know of that has been through some experiences as a mental illness patient in New Zealand, of how some hospitals treat them and whatever in the past, and also in present day. Some things need to change, which I think I clearly shared this on one of my blog posts about the healthcare system a long time ago. I might have to have a look, and if I do, I'll let you guys know if you're interested in either the reading or the video. But moving on, aside from that, basically, despite the treatment we get when we're in hospital, it's so bad that some of us autistic may elect to not access any treatment at all when we really need it. At the very least, training for medical and psychiatric staff needs to be included. Some autism training is part of accreditation and qualifications. This goes for not just that, but for the way of how maybe some lecturers, teachers, or what have you need to learn about the training of how an autistic works. Because, as you know, this part of it is a significant consideration for many autistic people. However, attitudes around sexuality and gender diversity can be stuck in the dark ages a lot of the time, especially for disabled people. Some people believe that we are all cisgendered and asexual, heterosexual, whatever sexuality they choose to become. This goes across all the items listed here: employment, education, healthcare, and so on. There needs to be much more advocacy and understanding in this space to ensure young people grow up safe and autistic people are seen as who we are in terms of our whole identity, whatever that may be. In the scheme of things, what a society has to learn about autism and autistic experiences, sensationalist pieces of news and media, and stereotypical autistic characters on TV does nothing to help this. We need more representation of autistic experience and also autistic characters in TV dramas who are not white, cisgendered, heterosexual, middle class men. Attitudes around disability and other differences need to be improved on a social levels too. that adds up to a lot of advocacy needed. Thankfully, there are now quite a lot of us working on these things. As you hear and seen, I may have heard of some of the classic known YouTubers, you know, Invisible Eye, Connor Wood, Andy, I'm not sure if you have heard of him. You've got the neurodivergent rebel, so on and so forth, that is growing right now to actually make these things happen, to speak out, sort of thing. But as I said, when I started, there were obviously a handful of us in Australia alone and in other parts of the world, especially like there's only a tiny speck of us that are trying to speak out in New Zealand about autism right now, which is a sad fact of what I've found out. But hopefully we can grow as a whole together. For some of the ones that I've been talking to from the New Zealand network of autism groups I'm in on Facebook. But in this point of time, basically, however, there are so many autistic advocates and activists, you know, along with some genuine allies, coming from a place of respect and listening, supporting this work and supporting others, as well as including others in the group or niche. Neurotribes, however, and someone I consider are very awesome human beings. Steve Silverman described the neurodiversity movement as the civil rights movement of our time. I, however, like this analogy. I think drawing parallels to civil rights is a useful way of looking at the best way forward. I absolutely long for the day that I will not be needed as an advocate, along with many other autistics that has raised their hands up for so many times, spending their time helping others, because we will have achieved all we need to do. It's important to understand, though, that nothing is set in stone, though. However, this stuff is all up for grabs, making it so important to advocate and be a strong presence fighting ableism and discrimination. We don't know what the future may hold, as we know, but we can only help to shape it and only hope. So this quickly ends a quick short video, hopefully, of my one about the need for autistic advocates. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Smash like if you did, comment below, feel free to share these videos around, feel free to follow me on my social medias, and all for the do, guys, don't forget also, as you can see, I'm wearing my merch. If you're interested in any of these, feel free to visit my merch deal, which will be listed in the description below, as well as on the screen. So also, if you want to donate to Patreon, since I've set a page up, feel free to visit it once it comes up on the screen, as well as saying this, give as small or large as you want, so that if you really want to support this passion of mine to continue on advocacy and educating with you all about my life journey and that, feel free to do so. And all further ado, guys, thanks to many of you who has come on board from this very start to now. Hopefully we can continue this, and in the future we can still just create the inclusivity and everything else in it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.